The movie begins with the introduction of Sid, who is a high school senior student. He's an unpopular guy at school and he wants to stay that way so he can spend his days there without any trouble. For this he's come up with 3 rules, and the first one is about staying as silent as possible because silence never leads a person to problems. His second rule is to avoid standing out and seeking the spotlight in school, so he takes on low-key roles like helping out at hockey games, being a backup in school place, and participating in the annual video game team. Finally, his third rule is to stay away from the school's infamous bully named Chuck. Is a troublemaker who beats anyone who gets on his nerves, and he records these violent encounters for his YouTube channel. There was even an incident where he almost killed someone, but due to his wealthy father he managed to escape legal consequences. Later on we see a guy named Jim who is Sid's best friend. Jim dreams of becoming a social media star and he disagrees with Sid's way of life and the rules he's established for himself. While they're chatting, Sid sees a beautiful girl named Tiff whom he's had a crush on for ages. He recalls that the last time he talked to her was when they were both 8 years old and dancing on the ice. Now he's hesitant to confess his feelings because she's dating Chuck. Afterwards, Sid and Jim are strolling through the garden when their third friend Luna arrives. It's apparent that Jim and Luna have feelings for each other, but they deny it and often fight with each other. After school, Sid arrives home to find both of his mothers waiting for him. They inform him that he's received a letter from the school and they are aware that the homecoming party is approaching. Sid says that he does not want to go, but his mother tells him it's a memorable experience he'll cherish as he grows older. However, Sid is still uninterested and mentions he doesn't even have a date for the event that weekend. Sid spends his time playing video games, and when he arrives at school he is tested from going 72 hours without sleeping. His sleep deprivation starts affecting him in various ways, from his eating to his lack of energy for sports. In his fatigue state, he accidentally insults Chuck, who then violently attacks him in front of their classmates. A teacher eventually intervenes, but Sid, who is still not in control of himself, disrespects the teacher in front of everyone. He has broken the 3 rules he set for himself by speaking out in front of the entire school. Chuck then promises that he will kill Sid the next time they meet. In the next scene, Sid awakens in a bed and Jim is beside him, saying that he has been unconscious for 7 hours. He also claims Chuck has been suspended from school for 2 weeks and is required to attend an anger management program. This means that Chuck will be back in school on the day of the homecoming party. Hearing this, Sid becomes terrified and believes that the end of the school year will also be the end of his life. Frustrated with himself for breaking his own rules, the next day he goes to school thinking that his life will end in 2 weeks and that he cannot leave the world without enjoying anything. Later, in a sex education class, a girl is giving a lecture about abstinence, so Sid gets up and argues against it. He asserts boldly that having intimate urges is natural and we should not be scared to embrace them. He claims that everyone in this class is horny but afraid to express it. The students admire his audacity and each of them begins to speak up and share their thoughts. He exits the classroom proud of himself, but he remains surprised where he got this courage from. Meanwhile, Jim is also proud of Sid, who has become a hero to others by expressing himself without fear. Sid then receives a message from an unknown number from a girl who has liked him for a long time, and she finally reached his phone number. She compliments him on his bravery in class, and Sid is happy that he's finally found a girl who likes him. After school, Sid heads to his job as a pizza delivery man. After finishing his shifts, he sits down with Jim and begins fishing. He informs Jim that because Chuck is returning in 2 weeks he will certainly kill him, so he decides that he must compile a list of things he must complete before he dies. With only 14 days left, Sid goes to school and for the first time he feels unafraid. All the students treat him like a hero and Jim informs him that the whole school is buzzing about him. Just then Sid receives a message from the unknown girl mentioning she's watching him from afar. He scans the area and spots Tiff approaching, so he figures she must be the one messaging him. Tiff then walks over to Sid and apologizes for Chuck's behavior. She informs him that she is broken up with Chuck, which makes Sid happy. She asks him if he will attend the hockey game at night, to which he responds that he will. The next scene, we're introduced to a guy named Eric, who is the hockey team star player. His father is the coach of the hockey team, who criticizes him severely if he does not play well. During halftime, the team heads to the locker room and they're losing. The coach begins yelling at Everyone in the locker room, particularly his son, they're getting ready for the second half of the game, but Sid notices that Eric looks upset, so he decides to talk to him. Eric opens up to Sid and admits that he doesn't like playing hockey and his dream is to be a dancer. Sid comforts him by saying it's okay not to play if he doesn't want to. After this, Sid puts on Eric's clothes and goes outside in his place. At first he's really scared and not playing well, but then he remembers he was great at ice skating when he was younger. He also thinks about how his life is ending soon, so he decides to have fun and give it his all. Sid starts playing like a pro and the team eventually wins. When he takes off his helmet, everyone realizes he's not Eric and they're even more impressed. The coach is so amazed that he offers Sid a spot on the team. Just then the mysterious girl texts Sid again and compliments his amazing performance. The next day it's time for the presidential elections and we meet Megan, who is running for the position. She talks to her classmates searching for an assistant, but they all make fun of her. Sid, feeling for Megan, steps up to be her assistant and Megan agrees since she has no other options. Afterward, Sid goes to a student who sells drugs inside the school and buys some from him. Later, Sid learns that Eric has joined the dance team and gets happy that he's finally done what he loves. At night, Sid continues chatting with the mysterious girl he likes, still unaware of her true identity. Days later, it's election day for the student union president, and Megan is super nervous about winning. However, it turns out that Megan has accidentally taken Sid's drugs, thinking they were mints. Megan, who is taking drugs for the first time in her life, is terrified that she will lose her position. Sid then decides that he supports her, so he also takes drugs to reassure her that she is not alone. When the time comes for their speeches, both Megan and Sid lose their senses due to the drugs. They begin doing bizarre things like rapping and dancing on the stage, while the other students burst into laughter. The next day it's the school play and Sid notices Tiff rehearsing with a bully named John. Sid slyly puts something in John's makeup box which gives him a pink eye and prevents him from performing. As a result, Sid is offered the role and happily performs alongside Tiff. After the show, Sid takes the chance to ask Tiff out to a party. In the next scene, Sid, Jim and Luna arrive at Tiff's house to pick her up. Jim and Luna are still arguing like they always do while Sid excitedly greets Tiff. Together they all head to the party at a classmate's house. There, Sid and Tiff have a great time enjoying each other's company. However, out of nowhere, Chuck shows up demanding to know why Tiff hasn't been answering his calls. It turns out he was allowed to leave his anger management class a week early. Chuck tries to take Tiff away, but Sid steps in and holds her hand. Chuck gets angry and threatens Sid, saying he's going to kill him, but suddenly Chuck's car catches fire, so he rushes to put out the fire. Meanwhile, Sid and Tiff escape from there and arrive at a forest where he makes a move to kiss her. However, Tiff hesitates and tells him she doesn't have romantic feelings for him. She confesses that she's still in love with Chuck and apologizes to Sid for misleading him. Sid is left shocked because he thought Tiff was the mysterious person texting him. However, Tiff clarifies that she doesn't even have his number. Heartbroken, Sid heads back home with Jim and Luna. The next day, Sid asks the mysterious girl to meet him, but she refuses, saying she's not as brave as him. He then gets up and tells his friends that they should log off and explore life beyond the computer screen. He reminds them that there's more to life than video games, and they are impressed. Just as he receives a text from the mysterious girl, he notices a girl in the room holding a phone and giggling. He realizes she's the one and tries to talk to her, but she runs away. He eventually catches up to her and the girl introduces herself as Katie. Although she's a bit embarrassed, Sid is thrilled and asks her out on a date. After school, Sid and Katie go on a date and quickly grow fond of each other. In a short time they share a kiss and decide to start a relationship. One day, while Jim is outside walking his dog, he spots Chuck and his friends in a car. They offer him a ride and suggest filming a video together. Jim has always dreamed of being famous, so he agrees without giving it much thought. The following day, Sid arrives at school and is shocked to find that all the students are mad at him. One of them shows him a video where it's revealed that Jim got drunk and spilled all of Sid's secrets. In the video, Jim claims that Sid made a list of his last wishes and even took drugs. He admits that Sid gave John pink eye and caused him to drop out of the role at the last minute. He also discusses how Sid wants to get laid and is dating someone else after Tiff rejected him. As a result, all of the students are now hating Sid. Has kicked off the video game team as well as the hockey team. Megan is also removed from being the class president due to drug use, and she is furious at Sid. She then tries to speak with Katie, but she discovers that she hasn't come to school that day. Later, when Sid gets back home, he
finds Jim waiting for him trying to apologize. However, Sid is still hurt and blames him for exposing his secrets just to be famous. He then goes to his room and tries to reach out to Katie to apologize, but she refuses to forgive him. The next day, Luna visits Sid at his house and pleads with him to forgive Jim, explaining that Jim didn't mean to insult him. The homecoming party is approaching and Sid is reluctant to attend, but Luna encourages him to be brave like before. She also admits that she was the one who set fire to Chuck's car. After much convincing from Luna, Sid finally decides to attend the party. On the day of the homecoming party, Sid and Jim finally reconcile. Sid then approaches Katie, who refuses to speak with him. Still, Sid apologizes, explaining that he never meant to hurt her and confessing that she is the only girl he's ever loved. Realizing that Chuck could kill him at any moment, he says goodbye and walks away. Later, Chuck arrives at the party and violently attacks Sid, causing him to lose consciousness. After some time, Sid wakes up in the hospital with Jim at his side. Jim shares that he too was attacked and starts telling what happened after Sid lost consciousness. In a flashback, we see that Jim also attacked Chuck to defend his friend, and then Luna joined in as well. After this, Eric began beating his father and stating his dream to be a dancer. The party descended into chaos as different groups began fighting with each other. After this, Sid leaves the room and finds the hospital full of the rest of the students. Meanwhile, we see that Jim and Luna have finally expressed their feelings and are dating now. Chuck has terrible injuries as well and he is arrested for what he did. The rest of the students are all relieved that Sid is still alive after all the beatings, but he ignores everyone else and goes to Katie, asking her to forget everything that happened and start afresh. She agrees, and the two begin to dance together in the hospital hallway as the movie comes to an end.